The sky over Earth was clear and quiet when the first signs appeared. Most people looked up and thought they were seeing a strange meteor shower. But Captain Laura Bennett, sitting in the control room at NORAD, knew immediately that something was very wrong. The objects were moving too fast, too organized. They did not fall randomly like meteors. They moved with purpose. Laura adjusted the radar display and zoomed in. She called her assistant, Lieutenant Jameson, over. "Look at this," she said. "These aren't natural objects. They're too large, too structured. They're ships." Jameson leaned over the console. "Ships from where?" Laura shook her head. "I don't know. But they're coming from outside the solar system. We are the target." In the Galactic Council, far beyond Earth's stars, alarm bells were ringing. The Council was a body made of many alien races. They governed much of the known galaxy, keeping peace and order. Each race had a representative, and all decisions were made together. When the report came in about the strange fleet heading toward Earth, the Council paused in silence. "Are you certain?" asked an insectoid member with thin, chittering limbs. "Absolutely," replied a floating, blue-skinned diplomat. "The fleet moves with speed and intelligence. It is not a natural phenomenon, and it is heading straight for Sol." "Earth?" asked another. "That planet is primitive. Its people cannot even leave their solar system. Why would anyone bother with it?" The answer came quickly. The ships belonged to a species called the Draxel Swarm. They had conquered dozens of star systems, consuming both the life and technology of each planet they encountered. Nothing could stop them. Until now, no one in the galaxy had ever resisted them. The Draxel were supposed to be unstoppable. Back on Earth, strange lights appeared in the sky over several cities at once. People in New York, Paris, Tokyo, and Sydney stopped their daily routines to stare upward. Phones buzzed with videos and pictures. Social media exploded. Most people thought it was a hoax or a rare astronomical event. Few realized it was the beginning of something much worse. Laura sent a warning to the White House. Within minutes, military installations around the globe were on high alert. Fighter jets scrambled into the sky. Satellites changed orbits to track the incoming fleet. Nuclear silos were prepared. For the first time in history, humanity faced an enemy that came not from within, but from the stars. By evening, the first Draxel ships appeared over Earth. They were massive, dark and shaped like jagged insects. Each ship moved with a grace that seemed unnatural for something so large. Their hulls shimmered with a strange metallic glow. Beams of light scanned the surface of the planet. Humans were terrified. Cities went into lockdown. Air raid sirens screamed in places that had never used them before. In New York, people ran through streets filled with panic. Some tried to reach loved ones by phone, but lines were jammed. Cars collided in traffic as drivers tried to escape. Soldiers fired at the sky, but nothing worked. Missiles disappeared against the Draxel shields like pebbles against a wall. Captain Laura knew the first attack would come soon. She gathered her small team in the command center. Ethan Brooks, a space engineer, and Maria Torres, a data scientist, joined her. Together, they tried to understand what the Draxel were doing. "They're scanning," Maria said, looking at the screens. "But not like they are looking for resources. They're scanning for life patterns, signals, and structures. They're learning everything about Earth in minutes." Ethan shook his head. "How can they move so fast and still gather this much information?" "It's impossible." Laura studied the radar again. "Nothing about them is normal," she said. "But one thing is clear. They don't expect resistance. They think this will be easy." The first beam struck near Washington, D.C. A forest fire started, and some of the outskirts of the city were destroyed. People screamed as buildings collapsed. Military units tried to respond, but the Draxel's weapons were far more advanced. The explosions were precise. Entire battalions were cut down before they could organize, yet humanity did not give up. The chaos was terrifying, but people fought back. Civilians formed groups to help each other. Soldiers continued to fire missiles and jets. Even when the Draxel advanced in waves, humans tried every way they could think of to fight. Laura directed jets to attack the incoming ships, but each time, they were met with powerful shields. The Draxel did not tire, did not retreat. Their ships moved as if they were a single mind. It was terrifying. At the same time, the Galactic Council watched in disbelief. They had seen powerful species fall before the Draxel, but now they were seeing humans fight back. Some council members laughed at the humans, calling them foolish. Others whispered their fears quietly. "They should not survive this," said one. Their weapons are primitive. Their numbers are small. They will die quickly. But as hours passed, the council saw something unexpected. Humans were not panicking entirely. They adapted quickly. Soldiers found new ways to attack. Scientists began trying to interfere with the Draxil signals. People in cities set up barricades and helped the injured. In small ways, humans were resisting and surviving. Ethan Brooks was the first to notice a strange pattern in the Draxil signals. The ships communicated with each other using pulses of energy. He realized that if they could interfere with the pulses, they could confuse the invaders. Laura, if I can create a device to jam their signals, we might have a chance, Ethan said, excitement in his voice. Laura nodded. Do it, but be careful. If we fail, this city, this country may be gone. Meanwhile, across the globe, similar efforts were starting. Teams of scientists and engineers tried to understand the Draxil technology. Ordinary people helped in ways no one expected, providing resources, supplies, and information. Humanity was showing a determination that the galaxy had not anticipated. By nightfall, the first Draxil ships began to retreat slightly, but they were still dominant in the sky. Fires burned, sirens wailed, and the ground shook from explosions. Yet humanity's resistance continued. Captain Laura, standing in the command room, watched her team work tirelessly. Ethan, how long until the jammer is ready? She asked. Few hours, he replied. Maybe less if we get some luck. Maria, checking data from satellites, added, It's not perfect, but even a small disruption could slow them down. Outside, people prayed, ran, helped, and fought. Families tried to find each other. Soldiers risked their lives. Humanity had no advanced starships, no alien weapons, and no reinforcements from the galaxy. They had only courage, determination, and a willingness to fight for their home. As midnight approached, the sky was filled with strange lights from the ongoing battles. Fires illuminated the clouds. Explosions rocked the cities. Yet humans were alive, resisting, and finding ways to survive. In the Galactic Council chamber, debates raged. Some members were frightened by what they were seeing. Humans were supposed to be weak, insignificant, and easy to destroy. Instead, they were proving unpredictable. They adapt too fast, whispered one alien. They survive when they shouldn't. What kind of species are these humans? Others shook their heads. It cannot last. The Draxil will eventually crush them. They are small, primitive, and weak. But even as they argued, the Draxil were discovering that Earth was not like other planets. Humans were not easily intimidated. Humans were clever, stubborn, and united in ways no other species had ever shown. Laura stood at her console and watched the horizon. The Draxil ships glowed in the night sky. She knew the fight had only just begun. She thought of the people in her country, in other countries, and across the world. She thought of the families, children, and ordinary citizens who were caught in this nightmare. Whatever happens, she said quietly, we will not give up. Not now. Not ever. And as the Draxil hovered above Earth, preparing for their next attack, the Council watched and wondered. For the first time in their history, they realized that humans might be different. Humans might not be conquered. Humans might not be broken. The night passed with tension, fear, and the strange thrill of hope. Humanity had faced the first wave of an unstoppable enemy, and survived. Somehow, against all odds, they had survived. And far away in the dark corners of space, the Draxil realized that Earth would not be easy. They had met resistance they had never expected. A new war had begun, and humanity was ready. The sun rose over a battered Earth, casting a pale light on cities scarred by the first wave of the Draxil invasion. Smoke curled from the ruins of buildings. Fires still burned in some districts. People wandered the streets in shock, helping each other where they could. The sky, once blue and calm, was now crisscrossed with faint trails from damaged Draxil ships and human fighter jets. Captain Laura Bennett stood in the command center at NORAD. She looked at the maps, the radar, and the live feeds from the cities. Her eyes were tired, but her determination was strong. We need to strike back, she said firmly to Ethan Brooks and Maria Torres, who stood beside her. Ethan rubbed his temples. I know, Laura, but the Draxil shields are too strong. Missiles, jets, and even bombs barely touch them. Maria shook her head. We can't fight them the normal way. We have to think like they think. They communicate with energy pulses. If we can jam those pulses, we can confuse them. We can make them weaker, Laura nodded. Then we do it. Whatever it takes, we fight back. Ethan and Maria went to work immediately. They studied the alien signals from the Draxel ships, watching every pulse, every flash, every movement. Slowly, patterns began to appear. They realized the pulses were like a language, a way the Draxel ships coordinated with each other. If the signal was disrupted, the ships would lose coordination and become vulnerable. While they worked, the world outside tried to recover. Soldiers, firefighters, and civilians came together to save lives. In New York, a group of volunteers pulled injured people from rubble. In London, people used fire hoses and sandbags to protect neighborhoods from falling debris. In Tokyo, citizens built barricades and helped guide the wounded to safe areas. No one could deny the courage of humans. Ordinary people, teachers, workers, and students fought alongside soldiers. The Draxel had expected Earth to fall quickly. They had assumed humans would panic and surrender. But humans did not. They adapted, resisted, and organized in ways the Draxel did not expect. Back at NORAD, Ethan completed the first prototype of the signal jammer. It was a small device, but it had the potential to disrupt the Draxel pulses. "It's ready for testing," he said, holding the gadget in his hand. Laura looked at him. "Where do we test it?" Ethan pointed to Denver. "We'll use the city as a testing ground. The Draxel ships are scanning multiple cities at once. If it works, it could give us a big advantage." Laura called in a team of pilots and soldiers. They prepared for the operation, knowing the risks. The jammer would have to be launched from a high altitude and activated remotely. If it failed, the city could be destroyed. As the team prepared, the Draxel ships hovered above Earth. Their dark shapes moved silently, scanning the planet. The council watched from their distant chamber. They were shocked at the human activity below. "They are organizing," whispered one member. "They are not afraid." "They will die anyway," replied another. "They have no hope against the swarm." But even as the council doubted, the humans were ready. In Denver, the jammer was set up on a rooftop. Ethan activated it, and a low hum filled the air. A beam of energy shot into the sky, connecting with the signals of the Draxel ships. At first, nothing happened. Then one ship wavered. Its movements became jerky. It lost coordination with the others. Laura watched the screens. "It's working!" she shouted. "They're losing control." The Draxel were confused. Their precise movements faltered. The swarm began to scatter. Human fighter jets took the opportunity to attack, striking with missiles and bombs. The combined human effort, aided by the jammer, began to push the invaders back. Meanwhile, across the globe, scientists and engineers tried to replicate the jammer. In Paris, a group of volunteers built a second device. In Moscow, another team experimented with a different frequency. The humans were learning quickly, adapting to the alien technology. The Draxel realized they were facing an unexpected challenge. Earth was not a weak planet. Its inhabitants were clever, resourceful, and relentless. The swarm communicated urgently, trying to regain control, but the humans' jammers disrupted them at every turn. Laura coordinated strikes with pilots and ground forces. Fighter jets flew in formation, striking at Draxel ships with guided missiles. Soldiers on the ground used improvised weapons to defend critical locations. Civilians provided information, guiding the military to weak points in the enemy lines. Maria monitored the data from satellites, adjusting the jammer's frequency. "They are learning too," she said. "Every time we disrupt a signal, they change patterns. We have to keep adapting," Ethan nodded. "Then we adapt faster." The battle spread to multiple cities. In Beijing, humans used drones to attack alien scouts. In Rio de Janeiro, engineers repurposed construction equipment to create makeshift artillery. In Cape Town, civilians evacuated families from the paths of destruction. Everywhere, the same pattern repeated. Humans refused to surrender. They were fighting not just for survival, but for each other. The Draxel, powerful and terrifying, found themselves opposed by a species that would not give up. The Galactic Council watched in horror. Their representatives had expected Earth to fall. They had assumed humans would be an easy conquest. Now they saw a planet fighting back in ways no one thought possible. "They cannot win," said one council member. "But they are surviving. They are dangerous." "They may be more dangerous than we realize," replied another. "If these humans continue like this, they could change the balance of the galaxy." Back on Earth, the battle raged through the night. Denver became the center of hope. The jammer had created a small but significant victory. The Draxel ships above the city wavered and fell, their coordination lost. Fighter jets and ground teams seized the opportunity to strike decisively. Ethan, monitoring the jammer, realized it was working even better than he had hoped. The energy pulses disrupted multiple ships at once. "Laura," he said, "we can expand the system. We can do this in more cities." Laura smiled, though her face was streaked with sweat and dirt. "Then we do it. Every city, every military base, every key point. We fight back everywhere." The next morning, news of the human counterattack spread. Across the globe, people cheered. Soldiers, engineers, and volunteers were hailed as heroes. Even though cities were damaged and thousands had died, hope returned. Humanity had shown that they were not weak. They had shown that they could fight. The Draxel, meanwhile, were shaken. They had faced many species before, but none like humans. The swarm's attacks slowed. They were confused, frustrated, and angry. For the first time, they realized that Earth would not be an easy conquest. Laura, Ethan, and Maria worked tirelessly to improve the jammer technology. They sent instructions to teams around the world. Humans in every country began building their own devices. Even ordinary citizens contributed, providing materials, information, and support. The world was united in a way it had never been before. Borders and conflicts between nations seemed small compared to the threat above. Humanity's survival depended on cooperation, intelligence, and courage. As the day ended, the Draxel ships retreated slightly. They hovered over the oceans, regrouping and analyzing their mistakes. Humans took the moment to catch their breath, repair their defenses, and prepare for the next wave. Laura looked at the night sky, now calmer but still dangerous. "They think they can scare us," she said quietly. "They think they can destroy us easily." "But they are wrong," Ethan and Maria nodded. They were tired but determined. Humanity had survived the first major attack. They had fought back with courage, intelligence, and unity. And they had proven something the Galactic Council and the Draxel had never believed, that humans could adapt, fight, and survive against impossible odds. In the distant chamber of the Galactic Council, whispers spread. Members exchanged anxious glances. Humans were not what they expected. They were not weak. They were not predictable. Some council members began to fear what these humans might become. "They are a threat," one said softly. "We underestimated them. We should have prepared for this." "Too late," another whispered. "They have begun to fight back, and they are learning fast." Back on Earth, Captain Laura Bennett stood with her team looking at the world they were fighting to save. Fires still burned, cities were damaged, and lives were lost. But hope had returned. Humanity had shown that they would not give up. They would adapt. They would fight. And for the first time, the Draxel realized that Earth was not just another planet. Earth was home to a species that could survive anything. A species that could strike back. A species that the galaxy had never expected. The war was far from over. The Draxel would return stronger and more determined. But humanity was ready. They had survived the first strike. They had begun their fight, and the galaxy, watching from afar, was beginning to understand that humans were not prey. Humans were a force to be reckoned with. The sun rose over cities scarred by the first Draxel attacks. Smoke still curled from destroyed buildings, and streets were filled with debris. People moved carefully, helping those who had survived. Soldiers patrolled the roads, coordinating with local volunteers. Humanity had learned quickly. Every move now counted in the battle for survival. Captain Laura Bennett stood in the command center at NORAD, surrounded by her team. Ethan Brooks was busy calibrating the new jammers, while Maria Torres monitored satellite feeds and data streams. "We have to push them back further," Laura said. "Denver was just the start. The Draxel will regroup and attack again. We can't wait." Ethan looked up. "We can expand the jammers to more cities. If we link them together, we can disrupt their signals across the continent," Maria added. "And if we combine that with human forces on the ground, we can slow them down even more." The plan was simple, but risky. Human forces had no advanced alien technology. They had guns, jets, tanks, and explosives. But the jammers could level the playing field. Every city where the jammers were activated would weaken the Draxel ships, giving humans a chance to fight back. Meanwhile, the Draxel were preparing for their next strike. Their ships hovered over the oceans, analyzing the strange resistance they had encountered. These humans were unlike any species they had met. They fought together. They adapted. They were clever, unpredictable, and most importantly, fearless. One Draxel commander hissed in frustration. They learned too fast. Their primitive weapons slow us down. This planet is more dangerous than we expected. Another Draxel ship scanned the globe, targeting major cities. Destroy their centers of resistance first, it said. Eliminate the signal devices. Crush their armies. Earth must fall quickly, but humans were ready. Across the world, teams had built more jammers. In Paris, London, Moscow, Tokyo, and Rio, humans prepared defenses, coordinated strikes, and shared information. Civilians helped move supplies, transport the wounded, and guide soldiers. Ordinary people had become part of the war effort. In New York, soldiers and volunteers worked together to protect key locations. Tanks were moved into the streets to block Draxel landings. Makeshift artillery was set up on rooftops. Drones flew high above, scouting enemy movements. Even children and the elderly contributed in small ways, warning of danger, helping the wounded, and keeping spirits alive. Laura's team in NORAD coordinated the efforts across North America. Satellite feeds showed the Draxel ships attempting to land troops in major cities. The first wave of human resistance had slowed them, but the swarm was still strong. Denver held, but they are moving toward Chicago, Detroit, and Toronto, Maria said. We need to act fast, Laura nodded. Then we fight there next. We can't let them gain a foothold. Ethan activated the new jammers. Beams of energy shot into the sky, disrupting the Draxel signals. One by one, ships wavered, losing coordination. Humans seized the opportunity to strike. Jets and missiles hit the enemy with precision. Ground forces engaged Draxel troops that had landed in the streets. The chaos was terrifying, but humans fought with determination. In Chicago, civilians formed barricades while soldiers organized ambushes. A group of engineers created an improvised EMP device using construction equipment and car batteries. When activated, it disabled several Draxel drones, giving humans the chance to push the invaders back. In Tokyo, the people worked with the military to use urban terrain to their advantage. Skyscrapers became defensive positions. Streets were blocked to trap Draxel forces. Civilians guided the wounded to safe areas. Humanity was showing creativity and courage that the Draxel had never anticipated. The Draxel were frustrated. They had expected Earth to fall easily. Every planet they had conquered before had surrendered quickly. Humans, however, fought back at every opportunity. Their persistence was irritating, even terrifying. They adapt too fast, hissed one Draxel commander. Every time we strike, they respond. We cannot control them like other species. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council watched from afar. Representatives of various alien species observed the battle, many in disbelief. Humans were surviving, even thriving, against a species that had never known defeat. Some council members were proud of their non-interference rules. Earth was proving itself. Others were afraid. They should have fallen already, whispered one alien. This species is too unpredictable. Too dangerous. They are dangerous, replied another. They may be the first species to survive the Draxel. We need to study them carefully. Back on Earth, Laura, Ethan, and Maria continued coordinating attacks. Using jammers, satellites, and human ingenuity, they struck at Draxel troops wherever they appeared. Streets became battlefields, but humans had the advantage of knowing the terrain. They knew their cities, their homes, and their streets. The Draxel were strong, but they were foreign in every way. In New York, Laura led a strike team to defend the city's main hospital. Draxel troops had landed nearby, threatening to destroy it. Civilians had already helped evacuate patients. Laura's team fought through the streets using smoke, explosives, and traps to delay the enemy. Ethan monitored the jammers remotely. They are weakening, he said. Keep pushing. They are losing coordination. Maria adjusted frequencies as the Draxel changed their signals. They are learning too, she said. We have to stay ahead. The battle stretched across the globe. In Moscow, humans used underground tunnels to ambush Draxel troops. In Rio, civilians guided military units to enemy weak points. In Cape Town, engineers set up jammers that disabled ships hovering above the city. Humans were everywhere, fighting together in ways the Draxel had never expected. By the end of the day, the Draxel were in retreat. Ships that had hovered confidently over major cities now wavered and scattered. Ground troops that had landed were being forced back. Humanity had turned the tide in several key areas. Laura surveyed the battle maps. Cities were damaged, lives had been lost, but humanity had gained something more important: hope. They had proven that they could fight back, even against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. Ethan and Maria worked tirelessly, improving jammers and coordinating with teams around the world. "We have to be ready," Ethan said. "They will return stronger." Laura nodded. "Then we will be ready." Humans do not give up easily. They never have. The Draxel, meanwhile, regrouped over the oceans. They were frustrated and confused. This planet, they realized, was unlike any other. Its people fought with courage, intelligence, and unity. They adapted quickly, learned from mistakes, and never surrendered. "They are stronger than we expected," hissed a Draxel commander. "They must be destroyed completely." But even the Draxel knew that this would not be easy. Humans had begun to understand their weaknesses. They had learned to disrupt their communications, attack their troops, and defend their cities. In the Galactic Council, whispers of fear grew. Humans were no longer seen as a primitive species. They were a threat, a wild card in the galaxy. Some members argued that the Council should prepare for humanity's rise. Others suggested alliances. But one thing was certain: humans had changed the expectations of every race that watched. Back on Earth, the night fell again. Fires burned in some cities, but in others, lights glimmered as people rebuilt defenses and cared for the wounded. Laura stood in the command center, exhausted but resolute. "They will return," she said, "and we will be ready. We will fight. We will survive. We will win." Ethan looked at her. "We are learning faster than they can adapt." "That gives us hope," Maria added. "Humans are not like other species. We don't give up. We fight for each other. That is our strength." The first day of counterattacks had ended. Humanity had survived the initial Draxel invasion, struck back effectively, and proved that they were not to be underestimated. Cities were damaged, but they still stood. Soldiers, volunteers, and civilians had fought together in a way that no one had expected. And the Draxel, despite their size, power, and experience, had discovered something new. Earth was home to a species that could survive, adapt, and fight back like no other. The war was far from over. The Draxel would return with new strategies and weapons. But humanity had taken the first step. They had shown the galaxy that they were not prey. They were a force to be reckoned with. And somewhere far away, the Galactic Council watched, realizing that Earth was no longer insignificant. Humans were alive, strong, and determined. The galaxy had underestimated them. Laura looked at the night sky, thinking of the battles to come. She thought of the people she had fought alongside and the families she had sworn to protect. "We are ready," she whispered. "They will learn to fear us." And as the stars shone over a battered but defiant Earth, one thing was clear: humanity was not broken. Humanity had begun to fight back, and the galaxy would never forget it. The next morning, Earth was quiet in some places, but the tension was thick. Cities were scarred from previous battles. Smoke still rose from ruined buildings, and streets were littered with debris. Yet humans were determined. They had survived the first wave. Now it was time to strike back harder. Captain Laura Bennett stood in the command center at NORAD, watching satellite feeds of the Draxel ships hovering above the oceans and major cities. "They are regrouping," she said. "But we have the advantage now. They are confused by our jammers. They can't coordinate properly." Ethan Brooks nodded, adjusting controls on the main console. "If we boost the jammer network, we can disrupt most of their fleet at once. That will give our forces a chance to push them back in multiple locations." Maria Torres was busy coordinating with engineers and scientists across the globe. "We have teams ready in Paris, Tokyo, Moscow, and New York. All the jammers are linked now. If we synchronize them, we can hit their communication network hard." Laura nodded. "Then we do it." Humanity fights as one planet today. Across the world, people were preparing for the biggest battle yet. Soldiers, volunteers, engineers, and civilians all worked together. Civilians brought supplies, moved the wounded, and helped repair infrastructure. Soldiers set up artillery, tanks, and defensive positions. Drones flew overhead to monitor the enemy. Humanity was united like never before. The Draxel, meanwhile, were becoming frustrated. Their ships wavered above Earth, unable to communicate efficiently. Their coordination faltered. Some ships collided or fell from the sky. Others were forced to retreat from cities where humans had concentrated defenses. "They are learning," hissed a Draxel commander. "They are stronger than we expected. This species is dangerous." Another ship responded, "We will adapt. We will crush them. This planet will be ours," but humans were ready. The synchronized jammers began broadcasting across key regions. The Draxil ships wavered and lost coordination. Fighter jets took advantage of the confusion, striking from multiple directions. Ground troops attacked wherever Draxil forces landed. Cities became battlefields, but humans had the advantage of knowing the terrain. In New York, Laura led a team of soldiers and volunteers to defend Central Park. Draxil troops had landed nearby, hoping to take the city center. Civilians helped evacuate families while Laura's team set up traps and barricades. Using smoke, explosives, and coordinated attacks, they forced the Draxil back. Ethan monitored the jammers from NORAD. "They're weakening," he said. "The fleet is falling apart. We need to push harder." Maria adjusted frequencies in real time. "They are trying to adapt. We have to stay ahead, or they'll regroup." Meanwhile, in Tokyo, humans used skyscrapers and narrow streets to their advantage. Soldiers and civilians worked together to trap Draxil troops, forcing them into kill zones. Engineers improvised weapons from construction equipment and vehicles. Drones relayed information, allowing precise attacks. In Moscow, underground tunnels became ambush points. Draxil troops were funneled into tight corridors where humans had set traps. Explosions and gunfire echoed, but humans fought with determination. Every success inspired the next city to fight harder. In Rio de Janeiro, civilians helped soldiers guide reinforcements and supplies to the front lines. Improvised defenses slowed Draxil advances. Fires were controlled, wounded were treated, and the resistance grew stronger. By midday, the tide of the battle began to turn. The Draxil fleet, once confident, was now scattered and disorganized. Ships wavered in the sky, some falling into oceans. Ground troops were retreating under human attacks. Humanity had found the rhythm of the war. They adapted, coordinated, and struck together. Laura watched the maps on her screen. "This is working," she said. "We can push them back. Focus on the cities where the jammers are strongest. Keep pressure everywhere," Ethan nodded. "We can extend the jammers' range further. If we hit their command ships, we can disrupt the entire swarm." Maria added, "We need to coordinate ground attacks with the jammers. That will maximize their impact." Across the globe, humans moved as one. In Paris, soldiers and volunteers attacked Draxil troops that had landed near government buildings. In Cape Town, engineers activated jammers that disabled hovering ships above the city. In London, civilians guided military units through debris-filled streets to attack enemy weak points. The Draxil were confused and frustrated. Their previous confidence was gone. Humans were not panicking, not running, not surrendering. They were fighting with creativity, courage, and coordination. Every attempt the Draxil made to regain control was met with resistance. "They are stronger than we imagined," hissed one Draxil commander. "Their coordination is impressive. Their numbers may be smaller, but they fight with unity and intelligence." Another replied, "We cannot predict their actions. They are unpredictable, and that is dangerous." Even the Galactic Council, observing from afar, began to take notice. Representatives had expected humans to fall quickly. Instead, they were seeing a planet-wide counterattack that was pushing the Draxil back. Some council members whispered their fears. Others debated the possibilities. "They may be more dangerous than we thought," one alien said. "They survive when they should have fallen. They learn quickly. We must study them carefully." "They are a threat," another replied. "If they continue like this, they may change the balance of power in the galaxy." Back on Earth, Laura's team pushed forward. In Washington, D.C., they cleared the streets of Draxil troops, protecting critical infrastructure. Civilians helped transport supplies and repair communications networks. Soldiers and volunteers worked together seamlessly. Humanity was no longer reacting. They were leading the fight. Ethan and Maria continued monitoring the jammers. "We can take out the remaining command ships," Ethan said. "If we do, the rest of the fleet will lose control completely," Laura nodded. "Then we strike. Humanity fights as one planet today." By evening, the Draxil began retreating. Ships that had once hovered confidently above major cities now scattered, losing coordination. Ground troops were pulled back by surviving command units. Humanity had turned the tide in several key areas. News spread quickly. Across the globe, people cheered. Soldiers, volunteers, and civilians were hailed as heroes. Humanity had survived, struck back, and shown the galaxy that they were not weak. The Draxil were forced to regroup over the oceans. They analyzed their losses and tried to understand how a primitive species could challenge them. Their commanders were frustrated, confused, and angry. They had never faced an enemy like this before. Laura stood in the command center, exhausted but resolute. "They will return," she said, "and we will be ready. Humanity fights together. We will survive. We will win." Ethan and Maria nodded. They were tired but determined. Humanity had survived the major counterattack. They had shown courage, ingenuity, and resilience. They had proven that they could face even the most advanced enemy and fight back. Across the globe, people began rebuilding. Fires were extinguished, barricades repaired, and the wounded cared for. Humanity had survived the first major battle and now had hope. The Galactic Council watched in silence. Humans were no longer considered primitive. They were a force that could survive, adapt, and fight back. The Draxel, despite their size, power, and experience, had learned that Earth was a dangerous planet. "They may be the first species to survive the Draxel," one council member said. "We have underestimated them." "They are learning quickly," another whispered. "If we are not careful, humans could become the most powerful species in the galaxy." Back on Earth, the night fell quietly. The battle was over for now, but humans knew the Draxel would return. Fires still burned in some cities, but hope shone brighter. Humanity had survived, fought back, and begun to reclaim their world. Laura looked at the stars, thinking of the battles yet to come. She thought of her team, the soldiers, the civilians, and the families she had sworn to protect. "We are ready," she whispered. "They will learn to fear us." And as the stars twinkled above a wounded but determined Earth, one truth was clear: humanity had begun to fight back, and the galaxy would never forget it. The war was far from over. The Draxel would return with new strategies and weapons, but humanity had proven itself. They had survived the first major counterattack, pushed back a superior enemy, and united as one planet. And somewhere far away, the Galactic Council watched, realizing that Earth was no longer insignificant. Humans were alive, strong, and determined. The galaxy had underestimated them, and it would not make that mistake again. The sky over Earth was still scarred from battle, but humans had grown stronger with each passing day. Cities were damaged, but they had been rebuilt faster than the Draxel expected. People had learned to adapt, to fight, and to survive. Humanity was no longer simply reacting. They were leading the fight. Captain Laura Bennett stood in the command center at NORAD. Satellite feeds showed scattered Draxel ships retreating over the oceans. "They're regrouping," she said. "But now we have the advantage. They are weakened, disorganized, and confused. It's time to push them back completely." Ethan Brooks adjusted the jammers. "If we expand the network to cover more cities and combine it with coordinated strikes, we can disrupt their fleet entirely. Their command ships are the key. Once those fall, the rest of the swarm will lose control." Maria Torres nodded. "We can coordinate with every military base, every volunteer group, and every city. Humanity is united. We can finish this." Across the globe, humans prepared for the final strike. Soldiers, engineers, and volunteers worked together, moving supplies, repairing defenses, and setting up communication networks. Civilians helped in every way they could, guiding reinforcements, providing first aid, and delivering materials. Humanity was united as never before. The Draxel, meanwhile, were growing desperate. Their fleet was scattered, and their command ships were under constant disruption. Ground troops were retreating, and morale was falling. The swarm had faced no resistance like this in their history. Humans were clever, adaptable, and relentless. "They are more dangerous than we expected," hissed a Draxel commander. "This planet is not like the others. They fight as one. They adapt. We cannot control them." Another ship responded, "We cannot underestimate them. Earth must be taken or destroyed. We cannot leave a species like this alive." Back on Earth, Laura coordinated with military units and volunteer teams around the world. Using jammers, satellites, and human ingenuity, they tracked the remaining Draxel ships and ground forces. Precision strikes were planned to disable the command ships while protecting cities and civilians. In New York, soldiers prepared to defend key positions, while volunteers transported supplies and cared for the wounded. Artillery and tanks were positioned strategically. Drones relayed real-time information about enemy movements. Civilians helped in every possible way, making sure soldiers had what they needed. In Tokyo, engineers activated additional jammers to disrupt Draxel signals over Asia. Ground troops set traps and ambush points in urban areas. Civilians guided reinforcements and helped evacuate residents from dangerous zones. In Moscow, underground tunnels and alleys became strategic points. Humans funneled Draxil troops into narrow passages where explosives and ambushes were set. The swarm, once confident, now stumbled under human strategy. Ethan monitored the jammers from NORAD. "They're losing control of their fleet," he said. "Their command ships are failing. The rest of the ships will follow." Maria adjusted frequencies, coordinating with engineers and scientists worldwide. "They're trying to adapt, but we are ahead. Every strike we make disrupts them further. We can finish this." Laura looked at the maps, her team, and the world. Humanity had learned quickly. They had survived attacks that should have destroyed them. They had adapted to alien technology, coordinated across continents, and fought together. Now the moment had come to end the invasion. "Everyone," Laura said, her voice calm but firm. "We strike together. This is our planet. This is our home. We fight as one. We will push them back and never let them return." The coordinated strike began. Jammers across the globe pulsed in perfect synchronization, disrupting Draxil signals. Ships wavered in the sky, losing coordination, some colliding with each other. Fighter jets attacked from multiple directions, hitting weakened ships. Ground forces engaged Draxil troops wherever they landed. In New York, the final push began. Laura led a strike team through streets filled with rubble. Civilians guided them past dangerous zones and helped carry supplies. Soldiers used tanks, artillery, and explosives to drive back Draxil troops. The invaders were confused and disorganized, unable to respond effectively. In Tokyo, humans moved through skyscrapers and narrow streets to strike remaining ground forces. Engineers activated EMP devices that disabled hovering ships. Civilians helped coordinate attacks, ensuring every move counted. In London, Paris, Moscow, and Rio, humans repeated the same tactics. Traps, ambushes, and improvised weapons slowed Draxil forces. Jammers disrupted their communication, making coordination impossible. The swarm was breaking. The Draxil realized they were losing. Their command ships were targeted first and destroyed one by one. Without coordination, the remaining ships and troops fell into chaos. Some tried to retreat, but many were destroyed by human strikes. "They are too strong," hissed a Draxil commander. "We cannot control them." "We cannot win," another ship responded. "Retreat, regroup far from this planet. Earth is lost." And for the first time in history, the Draxil retreated completely from a planet. Ships scattered into space, leaving Earth behind. Ground forces were defeated or captured. Humanity had survived and won. Across the globe, people cheered. Soldiers, volunteers, engineers, and civilians celebrated. Humanity had not only survived the Draxil invasion, they had defeated it. Cities were damaged and lives had been lost, but hope and pride filled every heart. Laura, Ethan, and Maria stood in the command center, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it," Laura said softly. "We fought back. We survived. We won," Ethan smiled. "We learned fast. We adapted. We fought together. That is our strength," Maria added. "This is just the beginning. Humanity showed the galaxy what we are capable of. We will survive anything." The Galactic Council watched in silence. Humans had done the impossible. They had defeated a species that no one had ever resisted. Council members whispered in disbelief. "They are a force," one said. "We underestimated them. We must study them carefully." "They have survived the Draxil," another said. "They are stronger than we imagined. They are a threat to the galaxy." The news spread across the galaxy. Humans were no longer seen as a primitive species. They had proven courage, intelligence, and unity. They had survived against impossible odds and had fought back effectively. Back on Earth, people began rebuilding. Cities were repaired, communication networks restored, and communities came together to care for the wounded and rebuild homes. Humanity had survived a war that should have destroyed them, and they had grown stronger in the process. Laura stood on a rooftop, looking at the night sky. Stars twinkled above, and the Draxil ships were gone, scattered in the far reaches of space. She thought of the people she had fought alongside, of soldiers, volunteers, and civilians. Humanity had fought together and survived. "They will never forget us," she whispered, "and neither will we forget this day. We fought for our home. We fought for each other. And we won," Ethan joined her. "They will return someday, maybe stronger. But we will be ready. Humanity has proven it can survive anything." Maria looked up at the sky. This is just the start. We are no longer prey. We are fighters. We are humans. Across the world, people celebrated, rebuilt, and mourned those who were lost. Humanity had survived against a terrifying enemy, and had shown the galaxy that they were strong, clever, and united. The Galactic Council began to take humans seriously. They realized that Earth was home to a species that could not be underestimated. Humans had survived the impossible and had defeated a species that had never been defeated before. For the first time, the galaxy began to see humans not as a primitive race, but as a force to be respected. Humans had survived. Humans had fought. Humans had won. And somewhere far away the Draxil plotted, knowing they had been defeated by a species they had underestimated. They would return someday, but they had learned that humans were not weak. They were clever, resourceful, and dangerous. On Earth, life began to return to normal. Cities were rebuilt, families reunited, and people learned to live with the memory of the battles they had survived. Humanity had changed forever. They had proven they could fight together, adapt, and survive against impossible odds. Laura, Ethan, and Maria stood together, looking at a planet that had been scarred but was still alive. "We did it," Laura said. "Earth is safe." "For now," Ethan smiled. "We survived. We fought back. And we learned that humans are stronger than anyone expected." Maria added, "The galaxy will never forget us, and we will never forget what we are capable of." The stars shone brightly above Earth, a planet that had faced destruction and survived. Humanity had won its first great war against a terrifying enemy. They had proven that courage, unity, and intelligence could defeat even the most advanced foes. And in the silence of space, the Galactic Council watched, the Draxil retreated, and the universe began to understand a simple truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. Humans were survivors. Humans were fighters. Humans were a force the galaxy would never forget. Earth had survived. Humanity had won, and the galaxy had begun to respect a species that refused to give up.